The New York Knicks annihilate the Memphis Grizzlies. Was this their most complete game of the season? We're going to tell you next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin, Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland the Greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. Be like Josh Hart, retweet them all the time, throw them a follow. You'll not get Knicks insight like that anywhere else. But if you want something slightly different, this is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week, sometimes more. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing both on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team. We'd also love if you comment in the YouTube section. Tell us your favorite play in tonight's game, because there were just an overwhelming amount of options, and I'm happy that is not part of our job description tonight. We also remind you that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. We're introducing the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Alex, arguably the Knicks' best win of the season. I would call it, at the very least, their most complete. I would probably, take that next step and call it their best win of the year against a Memphis Grizzlies team that we were just talking about at pre-show. One of 5 teams in the NBA coming into tonight with a better record than the New York Knicks. Top 10 offense, top 10 defense, been hovering around top 5 in those two categories all season, and the Knicks absolutely demolished them. A 37-point victory, 143-106. Knicks score over 140 for the second straight game. First time doing that since 1965. 2 of the top 15 scoring performances in Knicks history, and they come back-to-back. They set a season high with 52 bench points, a season high with 31 points in transition, nearly a team record with 20 steals, only 2 off on that total. Just a ridiculous effort. Memphis made it kind of competitive at times in the second half. It was one of those games where it felt like the Knicks were playing nearly perfect and should have been up way more at halftime than they were. But basically put this game away with a 16-0 run in the third quarter in under 3 minutes. Some Mikal transitions, some cat layups, capped by back-to-back Brunson threes. And then in the fourth, when Memphis cut it to 16, 6 straight points from Campaign, a Mikal 3, 11-0 run. Good night, Grizzlies. Just an epic second half, an epic performance for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, and anytime you have to go beyond, I feel like this should be like a rule of thumb, for Knicks achievements. If you have to go past the 1970 championship team to find any statistical anomaly, you're doing something pretty freaking good. Because normally those are the standard bearers. We keep hearing about Clyde's triple-double record and, the last time that 2 Knicks made the all-star starters at the same time, all this stuff. Usually everything's held by those 70s teams. So the fact that they did something that even those teams didn't do is crazy to think about, because they're the gold standard, the golden age of the Knicks for good reason. So, I mean, this team, they're starting to find their way. I feel like, I think I've noticed that, and I mean, we're going to talk about how good the bench was in a little bit, but I've noticed, I think my biggest trend from these 2 games is that Tibbs is trusting that bench more, and it's allowing the starters. I mean, we've talked about, I know it's been a very polarizing topic, very, you're either very much on one side or very much on the other in like the discourse around this team. But you and I were kind of the opinion, like, I think this team's getting a little rundown. Maybe they're not like super rundown, but like you could see it in certain performances where they seem to have dead legs and whatever. These last 2 games, they have that nice long layoff in between games to get their stuff together, get their bodies right, whatever. They come out in that Kings game and just run them off the floor. And then they come out and do the same thing in this game and just run these guys off the floor. And the Grizzlies are a team that loves to run. So, like, the fact that the Knicks were able to outrun them, I think speaks volumes about where their energy level is at right now, how all the guys are feeling. I mean, OG Anunoby, 7 stocks in this one again, back to his true form there. I mean, you had it's like everybody that touched the floor recorded a steal in this game, it feels like. So, there's plenty of them to go around, but like everybody getting those hustle plays, those hustle stats. Just a beautiful game to watch. If you're a Knicks fan, obviously, Grizzlies fan, maybe not so much, but I want to give props. Like, I don't always agree with his style of analysis, but I really liked Alan Hahn's stat that he pulled at the pregame for MSG, which was he pointed out that the Grizzlies were one of the more turnover prone teams in the NBA, and that the Knicks had snuck into top 5 in points off turnovers in recent weeks in the whole NBA. So the Knicks really took advantage of a team that does not take great care of the ball. And managed to just absolutely run crazy on them. Really turn every possible opportunity into transition points. And I just loved the even not off of steals and stuff, even off rebounds, just like Mikal Bridges with his head up, just looking to throw it the whole court, or Mikal Bridges running and cherry picking, down the other end, and knowing like, hey, the second that this ball gets in someone's hands, I should already be released and going towards the other end, because this team is apparently not great in transition defense either. In addition to not being great taking care of the ball, but just all in all, a fantastic effort all around for the Knicks, and just a really balanced game. Like, that was the best part about it. They scored all those points, but they weren't overly reliant on the starters to totally carry them. It was just the whole team got involved and everybody had their moment.
Yeah, and this is the only caveat I'll put on it all night, and then it'll be all just incredibly effusive from here. Like, I think this was about as bad as the Grizzlies could play. Like, even when it wasn't the Knicks playing great defense, they were throwing the ball all over the court. Didn't really pick on Cat in pick and roll the way you would expect them, but I thought Cat played a pretty good game, and a big part of it, which we'll get into more next segment, was that I thought Mikal just had an exceptional effort on Ja Morant that was reminiscent of what he did against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the first half of the first Oklahoma City game. And then he just continued it throughout. But this is, I mean, I don't know if we did a good enough job driving it home, but this is sort of a season defining stretch for the Knicks. Like coming into this West Coast road trip, right? They had been the epitome of a mediocre basketball team in January. They were 6-6, a 0.0 net rating in that time. And all season long, Alex, like I give credit to James Edwards over at the Athletic, like pulled this stat. They were coming into these last 2 games 13-15 against the top 10 seeds in both conferences. I didn't realize it was that bad. They were under 500 against playoff and play-in teams. They were 17-1 against the bottom 6 seeds, which of course was very similar to their profile a year ago, but ultimately concerned. It was like, all right, can they not only like scrape out wins against some of the best teams in the NBA, can they dominate some of the best teams in the NBA? They've done it against the Wolves earlier this year. They did it against the Nuggets before the Nuggets ultimately started to figure things out. And now you play a Kings team that coming in had won 10 out of 12. You wreck them. Memphis, I was even a little low on them. 5th in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating. I mean, just absolutely the profile of a championship team. And the Knicks wrecked them. They like from minute 1, even though it was close on the scoreboard, like this was a annihilation, as Mike Breen put it. I think that is the best possible term for it. I'm with you. Like I thought the transition was revelatory. It felt closer to preseason, where I don't know how much you remember this. Like it was just Mikal, Hart, and Brunson looking like they hadn't missed a step, and those 3 connecting over and over and over again. And you said it, like this was just a redux of that. Like with Mikal streaking down the court, OG had one where he ran ahead of everyone for a dunk, and it just sort of felt like Memphis did not have any kind of answer on either end. Totally complete performance, total butt kicking. And if you were like me and you were feeling a little bit pessimistic about this team, shows you how quickly things could change. It just felt like everything that could go right did go right, and pretty much everyone across the board had like close to an A+ game for the Knicks.
Yeah, and crazy that on a night where Brunson got into foul trouble early, which is really uncharacteristic for him, and had to kind of take a seat early on in this game. He caught his 4th foul in the second quarter in this one, which is not something that he's normally. That's more of a Cat trait than a Brunson trait. You know what I mean? And the fact that they were still able to, persevere through that, have some minutes where Deuce was like their de facto primary ball handler out there at times, and still managed to pull it together in those scenarios. I mean, I just thought this was as good of a game as you could have asked for given the circumstances, considering that, I mean, Brunson only played 25 and a half minutes
It's crazy
in this game.
Yeah.
And Josh Hart, who's been, I mean, like having to play like 40 minutes most nights lately, even on the games where they're winning, like even the other night, like against the Kings, everybody else had to, it got sort of a night off, quote unquote, like around 30 to 35 minutes, and Hart still had to play 40. He gets some time off too, and they still squash like this. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. And no guy, I think, had a better performance overall, led the team in scoring, but also just set the tempo pretty much across the board than Mikal Bridges, who you touched on already, but we're going to get into him in the next segment, as well as maybe some OG Anunoby talk, who also had a fantastic game, back to his soul snatching, stealing ways. So we're going to get into that next on Locked On Knicks.
All right, guys, time to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook, whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is incredibly easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, we are back here on Locked On Knicks, and we're going to tell you why this might just have been Mikal Bridges' best game of the season. I think at the end of the day, Alex, you probably default to that Christmas Day performance against the Spurs, like just iconic. Him going back and forth with Victor Wembanyama, and the shot making was just otherworldly in that one. But in terms of a complete two-way game, and in terms of just the platonic ideal of what the New York Knicks wanted from Mikal Bridges when they gave up 5 first-round picks from the Nets. I think if Tom Thibodeau could have told you his dream night, this is what it would have looked like, right? Lockdown defense on Ja Morant, expert pick navigation, beating him to the rim and swatting a shot. And then the other end, the shot making, the cutting. And to me, the most significant step forward is just the amount of time he had on the basketball, working off of horn sets, getting to the rim, the short fadeaways, the threes. It just felt like every single aspect of his game was working. And I said it, I think it was 2 shows ago, we were talking about the Nets game and how we were saying, man, it's so rare that him and OG both have an excellent night. And now you have back-to-back games where him and OG dominate. And to me, that more than anything else, even with the caveat that the bench score more than 50 is just incredible and a game changer for the Knicks. Like, that is what unlocks the ceiling of this team. And in the third quarter, where they played their starters 9 straight minutes, it was that combo. It was OG and Mikal on both ends taking over this game. And that was the difference between these two teams.
Yeah, and I don't think it can be, I mean, I know you mentioned it already, but I don't think it can be understated, the fact that what he did to Ja Morant kind of set the tone from minute 1 in this game.
Mhm.
Like, I think Morant coming in was, he's the profile of a guy that last year could have, and I mean, in the past he has, like, could have just absolutely destroyed the Knicks. Like, he's that speedy, flashy, high jumping guard that can, breeze right by you on the perimeter, can get all the way to the hoop, can finish there. Could have gotten Cat into foul trouble if he was able to get all the way inside. And Mikal just like put a stopper in that right from the beginning. Like, he couldn't get anything going. Morant was crazy frustrated pretty much the entire game, just like thinking, you could see he was, I mean, this may be a familiar sight for Knicks fans on some nights, but he was just thinking that every single thing was a foul call against him, and he was like, where's my call? But Bridges was just playing tight defense on him and keeping in front of him and just getting up and down when he got towards the rim and just challenging the shots, and they weren't going in. And then Morant was trying to kind of sell whatever contact there was, fall back, hit the deck, sit up with his hands up, start screaming at the refs or whatever. Like, he pulled the whole playbook out as far as trying to get the calls, but Bridges just didn't do anything to deserve getting any foul calls against him. It was just really good, clean defense on Morant, keeping him in front of him, and really just frustrating the guy who could have made a case for best player on the court, and can any given night just because he's that talented. But I mean, the fact that you took their best player and held him to 27 minutes, 5 of 13 shooting, only 2 assists for him. So he wasn't able to really even get anything going out of like pick and roll. And then a team low minus 41 for Ja Morant. I mean, they just lost every single minute that he was on the floor because he got completely neutralized by the fact that the Knicks just said, okay, Mikal, like go out there. You drew the Morant assignment in this game and that's it. And he made the most of it. And just really took that and ran with it. And that's sort of the difference between what this team can be and what last year's team was, which is like last year's team we saw would get exposed by like the guy that I always go back to was like Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs. Like for as much as the Knicks won that series, rightfully so, and whooped that butt, like Tyrese Maxey whooped them a few times and was able to get the best of OG Anunoby, who's just not quite as fleet of foot. And they just didn't really have an answer for that type of guard in the playoffs last year. I don't think they're running into Tyrese Maxey this year because I think the Sixers are going to find themselves in the lottery praying that their pick doesn't convey to someone else. But should they run into any guards like that in the playoffs, I don't think they have to worry about it with Mikal Bridges here. Like he is that dude. Like he's exactly what he was advertised to be. And when he's fully locked in, and especially if the offense is going, which then gets the defense going, which then gets the offense going, and so on and so forth, I think he's worth every bit of what the Knicks paid for him.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk, and I think rightfully, because he didn't defend like this when he was on the Nets, and we didn't see this the first 30 or so games of the season. And it's fair to say at a certain point, like, all right, if you don't defend like that for 2 years and you're in your upper 20s, did you lose 10% of your athleticism? Can you get back to 90% of what you were in Phoenix? And tonight was pretty close to 100% of what he was in Phoenix. And I'm sure there will be another downstretch with him where we're complaining and we're really bummed. But just knowing that this ceiling on both ends of the floor is there means the Knicks have like borderline. And I know I'm wishy-washy on this, but borderline like a championship ceiling. Like if he can play this well and OG Anunoby can play this well, and to your point, like I'm sorry, I'm a believer that having the 3 days off was a game changer, and that's the reason you're seeing Mikal defend like this. That's the reason you're seeing OG defend the way he did. But I will just drive home one more time. Like I think it is so important that he is seeing more time on the ball, that they're running sets for him, that he is operating as a connective passer, but not only as someone who catches it after Jalen bends the defense and then like he can make the next pass. He is catching it against the bent defense and then saying, great, I'm going to go downhill. Like he had a play against, I think it was Luke Kennard, where he just had a bully ball baseline drive, drew help from Brandon Clark, and then just slung a one-handed pass to the opposite wing to OG Anunoby for 3. And the Knicks they just absolutely need more of that, right? Like it can't only be Jalen Brunson doing drive and kick. We've seen more of that from Cat in recent weeks. I still think like if there's any issue with Josh Hart on offense, and he's had pretty much a perfect season by his standards offensively, like I would want even more drive and kick from him. But you're seeing the Knicks really getting the machine going. And to your point, it's so significant that against a defense this good, they could constantly have Memphis scrambling to recover, constantly have guys that can make the next pass. And I think a lot of that had to do with Mikal Bridges being so aggressive, getting downhill, both in transition and even more importantly in the half court. But Alex, we saw the same exact thing from OG Anunoby, like after he had the quotes post the Kings game where he was obviously awesome. And he said, yeah, I think I just need to be more aggressive. Like I need to see the ball a little bit more. You could go either way on those quotes, but I think the way he harnessed that tonight was perfect because he's getting downhill, but a lot of it was to pass the ball and keep the machine going instead of only looking for his own offense.
Yeah. And, that's evident by the fact that 4 out of the 5 Knicks starters had 4 more assists. Like it was just a testament to how good the offense was running in this game. You had OG with 4, Josh Hart with 5 assists in what was overall kind of I wouldn't say a down game for him. It was just a game where he didn't have to be as involved on offense with everybody else cooking, but 5 assists for him, 6 assists each for Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson. Cat was the only one who was a little left out of that equation. But yeah, I think OG's starting to figure it out. And, I think the number one thing for OG is like the old adage, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like just get the ball, shoot the 3, put it on the floor, drive, get all the way to the rim or look to kick it out of that scenario. Like you just want to treat him like I love football references this time of year. Treat him like instead of a standard pocket passer like a Peyton Manning or whatever, treat him like an option quarterback. Give him like two things to look at, and just like two quick reads, and that's it. Like I think that's just the key. Don't let OG over dribble. Simplify the game for him. Put him in sets that make it so that he's pretty much just taking a few dribbles, at most 3 or 4. And, if it ends in him pulling up in a midi or something, that's fine because you know that he's capable of taking and making that shot. But preferably he's shooting it from 3, preferably from his favorite corner, or he's taking it all the way to the hoop and finishing there where he's been extremely efficient the last couple games, especially just getting in there for that powerful 2-hand dunk. Like that's becoming like my favorite signature move of his at this point. Just getting vertical with those long arms and, doing exactly as much effort as it needs to be done to throw a dunk down. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see out of him going forward. Say nothing of the fact that, he was just an absolute demon playing the lanes in this game. 6 steals, which we mentioned already, but 7 stocks total, also threw a block in there. Another one of those games that brings you back to that streak where he had, what was it, 5 or more for like 5 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
Just another dominant performance for him in a season full of them, and starting to, slowly but surely kind of build that roller coaster back up again towards a potential defensive. Defense player of the year is probably out at this point, but all defense first team, something like that. If he keeps up the stock ways going through the end of the season, I think he's going to have a real chance there, especially if he keeps posting plus 41 plus minuses, which will work great towards some of the other advanced stats that are out there. But Gavin, this was a resurgent, or I wouldn't say resurgent, but the second straight game where the bench, I think, contributed really well and is starting to kind of make their mark. Also, Karl-Anthony Towns kind of got back at it. A little bit of a rough first half, but a good second half, in my opinion. So we'll get into both the bench and Karl-Anthony Towns to end the show in just a moment. All right, we're back in, continuing to talk through this 143-106 win by the Knicks over the Grizzlies. And Gavin, I mentioned the bench, but I figured quickly we could just touch on Karl-Anthony Towns. I was very encouraged by this game, particularly the second half. First half, I was actually, I don't want to say worried, but I was just kind of like, he seemed a little lethargic again, which was sort of the case over the weekend. Like that was maybe the one blemish in that Kings game. And I know you had like showed me some of your notes that you had written because you were doing Locked On NBA that night. You had sort of a similar opinion. Like he just kind of, I don't know, he was like a little invisible. And what previously used to be a circle on the calendar matchup as a Knicks fan, because that used to be Julius Randle versus Domantas Sabonis day. Anytime that the Knicks and Kings would meet, and he just kind of didn't have that same fervor against that particular opponent.
Domantas Sabonis, it's like, come on, this is the game. And Cat's like, I don't care, man.
He's
do
like,
what you got to do.
I don't care for 1 and 2 and
Domantas
rebounding.
Moping in the corner, just like I lost my friend. Though he gets the team in the West, I guess, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I don't care for 1 and 2 and rebounding. It's not doing it for me, buddy. Yeah. It's just like we don't have the history. This is forced.
Yeah, Cat's like, I'm just better than you, dude. And Domantas like,
yeah, he's like, all right, well, prove it then. He's like, no, I don't have to. Anyway,
yeah.
But there was a little bit of the same in the beginning of this game. I don't know. I felt like Cat wasn't. It just didn't seem like he seemed like he was laboring a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if there's more going on than just the thumb. I noticed he's got some positively Dante DiVincenzo-esque, like big old cupping marks all over his upper body at this point in the season. Seems like he's, maybe dealing with some stiffness in the shoulders or whatever. Might just be the wear and tear of a long season getting to him or something. I don't know. But, it seemed like he was kind of dragging again to start this one. And yet second half, I just thought that he rebounded really well, was part of that big run that ultimately you would say probably put this game away for the Knicks in the third quarter. 16 points in the second half, which actually led the team. So definitely was the tone setter there and did a lot with a little. He only played 12 minutes in the second half and yet still managed to shoot 7 of 10, 1 of 2 from 3. Got 7 boards, including 4 offensive boards in that time. So for whatever was lacking in the first half, second half was absolutely dominant, and he was the tone setter to start things off. And then they kind of just didn't need him down the stretch because Precious Achiuwa was so good. Maybe that's the the transition to the bench talk, or if you have anything to add on Cat, certainly do. But yeah, I thought it was a really good game for Cat in this one.
Yeah. I'm going to circle even further back because I realized there's one really important thing on OG I forgot to say, which is like I thought it was a game changer for the Knicks when, unless I missed it and he was guarding him earlier, they switched OG onto Jaren Jackson Jr. in the second quarter because there were 3 different drives where JJJ was like, all right, smaller dude, I'm going to go at him. And OG's like, I'm not smaller, bro. And just shut him down 3 different times. He held Edey on a post up one time, which is like Edey, like right there with Steven Adams, probably for the strongest dude in the NBA. And OG, it's just, I always remember Sean Woodley, Locked on Raptors host, said, look, there's no one in the NBA that's better at guarding Nikola Jokic, which will be tested when the Knicks, I believe, play the Nuggets in their next game. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, just an incredible big man defender. And then Cat, totally with you, started 1 for 6. Like the Grizzlies were sending a lot of help his way. And like it's indicative of Cat's impact that even when he's having an off night, like still an overall positive impact just because he draws so much attention. And I thought his defense was good. They had him blitz Ja Morant the first play of the game, and Morant kind of went right by him, and Cat sort of recovered, got a decent contest, but Tibbs was sort of like, I'm not doing that. And then played him in drop, and like it worked. I think mostly because Mikal was just incredible, but I think Cat played a role in that. And then kind of woke up to start the second, 5 quick points from 3. And a layup, and then just 2 of the best drives and finishes he's had all year. Like he had one where he just disregarded Triple J, and then just an insane up and under and one finish. Might be his single sauciest layup in the air. He lost the ball in midair, recovered it, still able to flip it in with the left hand. Then had another one with a pump and go on Zach Edey, switched hands on the gather, lefty lay, past Santi Aldama. Like that was encouraging to me in regards to his health. The other thing that was encouraging, Alex, 2 for 4 from 3 after he'd been just 1 for 10 since coming back from the bone fragment. I didn't get to give this take on the last pod. I was doing some Googling on bone fragments. I think you said the same thing. Seems like it can take like up to a month. Like even if you need to get surgery on it, you can usually get back pretty quick from it. If he continues to not quite look like himself, I would not be totally opposed to him sitting for a while if it means you get him back 100% come playoff time. Obviously, ideally, you don't want that. He looked pretty close to himself tonight. It's just something to keep watching going forward, I think.
Yeah, I think it's something that's just going to be like a pain management thing.
Yeah.
And if they probably have a hard cutoff and they might even time this around. Well, I don't know if they would do it maybe just after the All-Star break, because then you get like a week off after the actual All-Star game. I would imagine he probably wants to make appearances there because it's special for players and it's his first time as a nominal starter. But yeah, maybe you kind of just reach that point, sort of like with OG with the elbow fragment last year, where if it's affecting his game too much, you just say, okay. And the elbow fragment, to be clear, because that's a more like in use joint, I think that's what made it take so long for OG was that incision takes longer to heal because like your elbow is like bending all the time and the skin there is a little weirder to heal, I guess. Thumb, I think it would be all right. Like if you would get that taken out and then fixed up, like usually hand things heal pretty quickly. There's a lot of blood flow there.
And based on what I Googled, it seems more often people just use a splint, though I wonder if that would change now that he hasn't like done that immediately and rested it. So I'm not sure, but
I don't know. But either way, I think the thing that would make me more comfortable with that idea, and maybe this also coincides with the All-Star break, would be if you get Mitch back,
sure.
And then you can at least have the Mitch and Precious combo that works because you've seen it. And it literally worked for the team last year. And then you're essentially just rocking with like last year's playoff team plus Mikal Bridges, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, well, no Hartenstein, but similar.
No Hartenstein, but yeah, I guess that's true. But you're doing pretty good. At any rate, I think I'd be okay with it too. I think if it takes like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, we'll just have to see how it progresses. But if he's able to keep shooting at a decent rate, and he's also just finding other ways to score, even not shooting the 3, but obviously, I think the skill that is his outlier skill that is the one that would be most valuable in like a 7-game playoff series is that shooting. So you want to have him able to do that on like up to 7-8 attempts per game to really give you an advantage once that comes around. And I think sacrificing a few games in the regular season or whatever, if you have to sit him, could be worth that, especially if the rest of the team just continues clicking like they have been lately. I think they could, if they plan it right, they could absorb the loss for a little bit and hopefully come out still over 500 for that stretch. At any rate, the part of the reason I think that is because the bench did a lot better in this game. I think they're really starting to kind of find their identity, come into their own at this point. just really good performances for the rest of the 9-man rotation. All 4 guys off the bench. Precious Achiuwa, 6 of 9 shooting for 14 points. He had 3 boards, 1 assist. Also had 6 stocks, positively OG Anunoby-esque of him. 4 steals, 2 blocks in this one. Deuce McBride, 14 points, 6 of 13 shooting. Still left a little to be desired with 2 of 7 from 3, but like looked bouncy, looked explosive. Had 4 boards, 4 assists. Also, he filled it up in the stock department, 3 steals and a block for Deuce McBride. Landry Shamet hit a couple threes. Granted, they were late. He didn't hit them early, but hit a couple in garbage time. Whatever, you'll take it. If that guy gets in rhythm, the Knicks are in really good shape. And then Campaign with 11 points, 4 of 10 shooting. Also an off night from 3, so good to see him manage to put things together. A couple really nice layups for him, which was cool. And then also 3 boards, an assist, and a steal for him. And most importantly, for the most part, winning their minutes. Plus 17 for Campaign, plus 8 for Deuce McBride, plus 9 for Precious Achiuwa, minus 8 for Landry Shamet. It's because he was out there in the first half in sort of a rough stretch, and then he didn't see the floor again until garbage time. So, wasn't able to quite reclaim the impact there of the plus minus. But all in all, I thought this was a great effort for the bench. Like, I thought that they came out, and this was probably the perfect team and the perfect matchup for the bench to have a good game, because they exceed at borderline overplaying the passing lanes. Like, Precious is good in the same way as like the wings in the starting lineup of kind of getting his hand in there, generating a steal, getting out on the fast break. He showed in this game, obviously fantastic on the fast break, threw down a couple dunks, like looked really good. Deuce McBride, though, same deal, like really good at getting that long wingspan out there, poking the ball away. Campaign, also a pest like that. So this was just kind of like the perfect matchup against a turnover prone team for the Knicks bench to come out and look as good as they possibly could. And it was just kind of top to bottom. Like, obviously it started with the starters, but the bench just came in, kept the same amount of energy going, the same go about them, and just getting up and down the floor, getting out in transition. I thought this was finally, I think, the game where you could say like the bench has sort of arrived in a way. Even if you take away the points that like the end of bench guys scored in garbage time, which was 7 points total, the Knicks still scored 45 points off the bench, which still I think would have been their season high.
Yeah, it was 40 was their previous season high. So easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if it's just the rotation, they still hit the highest point total for the season. Hopefully this, if I could take one thing out of this game, I would say I hope this continues the rest of the season. It's the bench playing this well, because they really need that. And I think it allows the starters to then keep playing at a faster pace, which I'm thinking after these last 2 games is how the Knicks should be approaching most games going forward the rest of this year, because it's clearly where they thrive the most.
Absolutely. I think they're just a better team when they're more aggressive defensively, and there's a lot of statistics out there to indicate. You talked a lot on this pod about like offensive rebounding kind of being like the secret sauce to some of the better teams in the NBA, and teams not appreciating it. There's definitely some data to indicate that is becoming forced turnovers, and that's an area obviously where Oklahoma City, like not 1-to-1 cause and effect, but is far and away the best in the NBA, and they are probably the best team in the NBA at this point in the season. And the defensive playmaking of the bench against arguably the best bench in the NBA, certainly the highest scoring bench in the NBA, in the Memphis Grizzlies, was just insanely impressive. You talked about him, but you gotta start with Deuce, like open the game with like a quick trigger 3 off a pass from Campaign. Had just a nasty blow by on Jake LaRavia and like an acrobatic layup around Brandon Clark. It was one of his better drives of the season, and that's honestly what stood out to me more than anything else. Just the rim pressure he's applied. Like I mentioned it before, but he's had a really down season in terms of his finishing, and I just thought like the finishing was good, but also the decision making was good. We see another one where he beat a closeout, drew the big, and then just hit Precious on an underhanded lob. Like, you don't typically see him throwing passes like that. The exclamation point, the cherry on top, was just the monster jam he had off of Tyler Kolek. I don't know about you. I sometimes forget that he can get up like that, but just once every 20 games, he'll really surprise you with just a crazy, crazy dunk. If anything, I thought Precious was even better. They ran this really slick little set for him where it was almost like a second side pick and roll where he screens for Jalen Brunson. Brunson passes it to Hart. Luke Kennard switches off of Brunson onto Precious on the screen, and Precious just seals Kennard, and then Hart had the perfect angle to just lob it in for him for a dunk. I hope they run that more. Just a nice way to get him involved early. And that Statue of Liberty dunk he had off of the interception, where he literally, like, he caught it on the other baseline, like literally took it the length of the court, was just crazy. He hit a wing three. Like, it was just one of those nights for the New York Knicks. And then you said it, but I thought campaign was absolutely essential after the lead was cut to 16 in the fourth quarter. He scored 6 straight, all of them on like kind of just increasingly tough layups, like a pass fake into a lay, then a high arcer, then one where he just gets knocked down by Zach Edey, who probably weighs 5 times as much as him conservatively, I'm going to say. Just a really nice effort from campaign. Hit a corner 3 off a give and go with OG. And we can finish things off by saying shout out Tyler Kolek, 3 beautiful assists, like had a great bowling ball pass to Deuce for that dunk, and a 3 in about 3.5 minutes of garbage time. Maybe should have been a little bit more, but you know what? Tom Thibodeau's been scarred in the past. We'll forgive him. What a night for the New York Knicks, Alex. It only gets harder from here. The Nuggets, the Lakers, and the Rockets are up next, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the rest of this road trip.
Yeah, I think that the Knicks ought to be a road trip. Or I think they're on a home
trip. Sorry. I said West Coast trip earlier too. They've been at home.
Yeah, yeah. The West Coast visiting trip. Something like that.
The circus is in town. Let's say
the circus is in town. Yeah, whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be a tough stretch. Weirdly, the scariest game among those being the giant killing Houston Rockets, who are just demolishing every good team right now. So we'll see how that all goes. But no matter what, we'll have you guys covered for this homestand and everything in between. But until next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.